The Prime Minister and the Crown Prince discussed a wide range of measures as outlined on the gov.uk website. We regularly raise human rights priorities and any areas of concern with the Government of Bahrain, including at senior levels. The Foreign Secretary raised social and justice reforms with the Crown Prince during their meeting on the 17th of June, and the UK continues to engage with the Government of Bahrain to support its reform agenda.
My Lords, I thank the Noble Lord, but the UK has a close relationship with Bahrain, but is pressed on what it raises on human rights. Now, I flagged to the Noble Lord last night the case of human rights defender Dr Al-Singace, who has a PhD from Manchester University and who was arrested on his return to Bahrain in 2010 and sentenced to life imprisonment for his peaceful opposition to Bahrain's government during the Arab Spring. He's currently on hunger strike. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International and others have called for his immediate and unconditional release. The UK has never done so. Can the Noble Lord tell us whether the government will now do this before it's too late?
As the Noble Lady says, our relationship with Bahrain means that we are able to raise cases directly with them. We continue to monitor the case of Dr Al-Singace. We've raised the case at a senior level with the Bahraini government, and we urge anyone with concerns for a particular case to raise those with the oversight bodies in Bahrain and continue to encourage the oversight bodies to carry out swift and thorough investigations into any such claims.
Lord Anderson of Swansea.
My Lords, of course there are proper concerns about human rights in Bahrain, as indeed there are in all Middle East countries. Would the Noble Lord the Minister agree that these concerns should be put in the context of the continuing efforts by Iran to destabilise the country by propaganda and by shipping vast quantities of arms, including explosive devices, to the country, and also with the very positive role which Bahrain has in the Middle East, particularly in respect of the Abraham Accords?
Well, my Lords, we remain committed to the promotion of universal freedoms and human rights, and are more likely to bring about change through engagement, dialogue and cooperation. Our strong relationship with Bahrain has flourished for over 200 years. We cooperate on defence, security, trade and regional issues such as those that the Noble Lord mentions.
My Lords, a year ago this week, the Bahrain's courts upheld the death penalty for Mohammed Ramadan and Hussein Musa. Following commitments made to do so in the other place by the Minister for the Middle East and North Africa, what representations has Her Majesty's Government made to the Government of Bahrain on the death penalty?
Well, the UK remains opposed to the death penalty in all circumstances and all countries as a matter of principle. The Government of Bahrain is fully aware that we are firmly opposed to the death penalty, and our good relationship allows us to have honest dialogue and raise points on that. We raise the matter regularly at both ministerial and official level, publicly and privately, including during the Minister for the Middle East and North Africa's most recent visit to Bahrain.
Lord Berkeley of Naton.
My Lords, I'm sure the Minister would agree with me that it is through the interchange of culture and sport that influence can often be exerted. And Amnesty International have identified the Grand Prix in Bahrain as being a huge event through which we should try to put pressure. Are efforts being made in this direction with, for example, Formula One?
Well, I will have to double-check the point that Noble raises about Formula One and write to him to confirm that. But he's absolutely right to highlight the role that cultural exchange, sport, music and the arts plays in our strengthening our relationships and standing up for our fundamental values.
Lord Collins of Highbury.
My Lords, earlier this year I raised with the Noble Lord Ahmed the detention of children in Bahrain following reports of their physical abuse and forced confessions. Can I ask the Noble Lord the Minister what response to these, what assessment has the government made to the Bahraini authorities' response to these reports of alleged human rights abuses against children, and will they make further representations to ensure this does not happen?
Well, yes, if the Noble Lord bears with me, I do have an answer on that point. There's a lot of pages and a lot of information, but I want to make sure the Noble Lord has an answer. In response to the recommendations in the Bahrain Independent Commission Inquiry Report and by the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, Bahrain has undertaken reforms of its juvenile justice system. We've consistently promoted and supported Bahrain in adopting a whole system approach to youth offending, from diversion and prevention through to rehabilitation and resettlement of young people. And we welcome the recent ratification by His Majesty the King of the Corrective Justice Law for Children, and will be monitoring its implementation.
Annis Bennett of Manor Castle.
My Lords, I'm sure the Noble Lord the Minister is aware of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Democracy and Human Rights in the Gulf recent report on the Integrated Activity Fund and the Gulf Strategy Fund, and I declare an interest as an endorsee, which concludes that Her Majesty's government has been deceptive and misleading about these £50 million in funds, putting the UK at risk of complicity in rights violations in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Will the Noble Lord the Minister respond to the report, consider its recommendations, and tell this House why the government refuses to be transparent about how this money is spent?
Well, my Lords, the FCDO's international programme, and within it the Gulf Strategy Fund, is a vital tool in promoting positive change and reforms across the world, including in the Gulf. We now publish an annual summary of the GSF work on gov.uk. We won't publish further information where doing so presents risks to our staff, programme suppliers and beneficiaries, or which may hinder our relationships with our international partners and therefore hinder our ability to influence their reform efforts, but we will provide updates on an annual basis.
Lord Flight.
My Lords, does the government accept informally double standards applying to human rights as regards the Gulf versus the UK?
Well, my Lords, if we want to bring about change in the world, we have to engage with those we wish to see improve their records on human rights. We don't shy away from raising human rights concerns with other countries, and we make this point very clearly in public and in private.
Lord Brown of Leadenton.
My Lords, the Noble Baroness Lady Northover referred to the plight of Dr Al-Singace. 73-year-old Hassan Mushaima is in an identical position. Both are political prisoners, obviously, and have been detained for 10 years for their peaceful political opposition to Bahrain's dictatorship. Both, in fact, participated in an event held in this House in 2010. And in 2012, the Foreign Office stated that they were, and I quote, very disappointed over a decision to uphold their life sentences due to the court's reliance on torture-tainted confessions. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International and the European Parliament have called for their immediate release. Why has our government failed publicly to call for their release? And is the Noble Lord the Minister willing to do so today? And did the Prime Minister raise our continued disappointment, presumably, at their continued unjustified detention with the Crown Prince when they met?
Well, my Lords, we continue to monitor the case of Mr Mushaima and Dr Al-Singace, and where we have concerns, we have raised them at senior levels with the Bahraini government. The policy of Her Majesty's government on torture is clear. We do not participate in, solicit, encourage or condone the use of torture or mistreatment for any purpose. We urge all allegations of this nature to be reported to the appropriate national oversight body, whose duty it is to carry out a full and independent investigation, and we will continue to raise concerns about human rights with the government of Bahrain wherever we have them.